Hello and welcome to our Bible class. We appreciate you coming in with us and studying with us together on this online format. We're really appreciative of your interest in things that are spiritual and things that are biblical, and we're going to be getting right into our passage beginning at Numbers 33:1 here in just a moment. Before we begin, let's have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this time we have together to study, and we pray that we will strive to do all things according to your will. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. We continue our study of the Pentateuch at Numbers 33, and this is going to be a review of what has happened up to this point. The Israelites under Moses' leadership have journeyed all the way from Egypt to the point where they are now just east of the Jordan River. And so Numbers 33:1 is beginning an itinerary of sorts of Israel's journey all the way from Egypt to the plains of Moab. And it lists 40 stages of that journey, which due to the Great Rebellion required nearly 40 years to complete. Now, for its first readers, the list probably marked quite well the route of Israel's wilderness sojourn. But for us in the 21st century, we find the list perplexing at several points because many of the ancient place names that are mentioned by Moses have not survived. And so numerous sites listed cannot be confidently identified. So when you see a map, for instance, of the wilderness wanderings, you'll see arrows going all over the place because the person that drew the map has no clue as to where they went. And that's not a bad thing because we really don't know where many of these places are located. A traditional analysis which locates Mount Sinai in the southern peninsula, which I believe that's where it was located, considers Kadesh the focus of the years of wandering and traces Israel's march from there around Edom to approach Sihon's kingdom from the southeast. And that seems to best satisfy all the biblical data and all the historical data. But within the overall framework, there are still details that are obscure. So we're going to be looking at many place names that we really don't know where they are for sure. But having said that, we begin. These are the journeys of the sons of Israel, by which they came out from the land of Egypt by their armies, under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. Notice the New American Standard Bible says these are the journeys. The Revised Standard Version says these are the stages. The Hebrew text, literally, the word means pulling up. These are the pullings up, which would indicate a breaking up of camp, pulling up the tent stakes, as it were. So that's the idea. These are the stages, the pullings up. Wherever they sat down and then they pulled up, that's where he locates it. And notice verse 2. Moses recorded their starting places according to their journeys by the command of the Lord. And these are their journeys according to their starting places. The New American Standard says Moses recorded. The Revised Standard Version says Moses wrote. Moses wrote these things, these stages, by the command of the Lord. Now, the question is, do we believe this? Liberal scholars don't. Liberal scholars would say that no, Moses did not write this. It was Israel over a period of several hundred years when they were settled in their agrarian society there in Canaan. They came up with this system. They came up with this monotheistic religion to explain their existence. Well, that's just simply not the case. If the writer of Numbers 33:2 is to be believed, then it was Moses who recorded it by the command of the Lord. And remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of John when he said, if you had believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you will not believe Moses, how will you believe my words? So if we don't believe that Moses wrote the Pentateuch, then we're casting aspersion on Jesus Christ, because he accepted it. And he connected Mosaic authorship to his own deity and his own authority. So notice, Moses recorded their starting places according to the commands according to their journeys by the command of the Lord. Verse 3. They journeyed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the next day after the Passover, the sons of Israel started out boldly in the sight of all the Egyptians. Now, again, Ramses, the name, does not necessarily indicate a late date for the Exodus. We've already touched on that earlier when we were in the book of Exodus itself. It's simply a name that was known by the Egyptians. And so they started out boldly. Notice that. They started out boldly. They went out triumphantly. It gives you an idea of when they exited from Egypt. They were going out with confidence. And then verse 4. Notice, as they were leaving, while the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. That's a detail that Moses did not mention in Exodus. So they were leaving Egypt while the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn. That's interesting. And then he adds this. The Lord had also executed judgments on their gods. Of course, we've already talked about that. How that this was a cosmic war between God and Satan. How that God was passing judgment on the entire system of Egypt. The gods, the goddesses, all of the idols, all of the statues, all of the iconography of Egypt. All of that was being judged by God. It was being taken down. So God was passing judgments on their gods. And he did that through the series of plagues, as we saw when we looked at the book of Exodus. Then, verse 5, the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramses and camped in Succoth. They journeyed from Succoth and camped in Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. They journeyed from Etham and turned back to Pihiroth, which faces Baal-zephon, and they camped before Migdol. They journeyed from before Hiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness. And they went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham and camped at Marah. Notice, they passed through the midst of the sea. Moses just simply mentions that in passing. That journey through the Red Sea, where God parted it and the water became as walls on the right hand and the left. That great, great miracle. Verse 9. They journeyed from Marah and came to Elim. And in Elim there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. They journeyed from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. They journeyed from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. They journeyed from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. They journeyed from Dophkah and camped at Alush. Alush is not mentioned in the book of Exodus, one of those places that is not mentioned there. They journeyed from Alush and camped at Rephidim. Now it was there that the people had no water to drink. They journeyed from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They journeyed from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. They journeyed from Kibroth Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. Then verses 18 through 29. All of these places that are mentioned in this section, verses 18 through 29, are conjecture. That is identification of where they are, because their names are otherwise unknown to us. We really don't know where these places are. So keep that in mind as we're going through it. They journeyed from Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. They journeyed from Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. They journeyed from Libnah and camped at Rissa. They journeyed from Rissa and camped in Ketethalah. They journeyed from Ketethalah and camped at Mount Shepher. They journeyed from Mount Shepher and camped at Haradah. They journeyed from Haradah and camped at Makaloth. They journeyed from Makaloth and camped at Tahath. They journeyed from Tahath and camped at Terah. They journeyed from Terah and camped at Mikvah. They journeyed from Mikvah and camped at Hashmanah. So all these places that are mentioned in that section, we really don't know where they're located. Then it says, verse 30, they journeyed from Hashmanah and camped at Moseroth. They journeyed from Moseroth and camped at Beni-Jakin. They journeyed from Beni-Jakin and camped at Hor-Haggidgad. These names are not that easy to pronounce. and so I'm doing the best that I can. They journeyed from Hor Haggidgad and camped at Jabbatha. They journeyed from Jabbatha and camped at Abrona. They journeyed from Abrona and camped at Ezion Geber. They journeyed from Ezion Geber and camped to the wilderness of Zin, that is, Kadesh. They journeyed from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor at the edge of the land of Edom. Then Aaron the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord, and died there in the 40th year after the sons of Israel had come from the land of Egypt, on the first day in the 5th month. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. So this is the epitaph that is given to Aaron, a fitting end to his career. Aaron is singled out by Moses here in the midst of recounting how they have come to this place. He is singled out by Moses for praise, because even though Aaron had his flaws, and we've seen how Aaron at times would cave to pressure, still, overall, Aaron followed the Lord. Aaron wanted to do what the Lord commanded, and did as the Lord commanded. He was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Verse 40. Now the Canaanite, king of Arad, who lived in the Negev in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the sons of Israel. Then they journeyed from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanah. They journeyed from Zalmanah and camped at Punan. They journeyed from Punan and camped at Oboth. They journeyed from Oboth and camped at Iabarim at the border of Moab. They journeyed from Iam and camped at Dibengad. They journeyed from Dibengad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. They journeyed from Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abiram before Nebo. They journeyed from the mountains of Abiram and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. They camped by the Jordan from Beth Jeshimoth as far as Abel Shittim in the plains of Moab. So now he's taken them all the way from Egypt, recounting all of their journeys to the place that they are now. Verse 50. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you cross over the Jordan into the land of Canaan. Notice that. Not if you cross, when you cross. It's assumed that they're going to cross. When you cross over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their molten images, and demolish all their high places. That's the first thing that God tells Moses to instruct the Israelites to do. They are to drive out. Israel's policy toward the Canaanites was supposed to be leave or die. Now, it was duly repeated after the golden calf apostasy, as we've already seen. These directions were for conquest were emphasized here to that new generation that's about to enter into the Jordan. First thing they're to do is get rid of all the idolatry. Get rid of all the pagan religion that is in the land. Verse 53, and you shall take possession of the land and live in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. You shall inherit the land by lot, according to your families. To the larger you shall give more inheritance, and to the smaller you shall give less inheritance. Wherever the lot falls to anyone, that shall be his. You shall inherit according to the tribes of your fathers. But, and here's a preview of the book of Deuteronomy, by the way, but if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come about that those whom you let remain of them will become as pricks in your eyes and as thorns in your sides, and they will trouble you in the land in which you live. And as I plan to do to them, so I will do to you. So Moses gives a warning to the Israelites, to this new generation. This clear warning that Israel, if they were led astray, would likewise be driven from the land, we well know was tragically realized many years later when they would be taken away into first Assyrian captivity and then Babylonian captivity. But this is a preview of what Moses is going to tell the Israelites in the book of Deuteronomy. Now we come to chapter 34. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the sons of Israel, and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, again, not if you enter, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you as an inheritance, even the land of Canaan according to its borders. Your southern sector shall extend from the wilderness of Zin along the side of Edom, and your southern border shall extend from the end of the salt sea eastward. Then your border shall turn direction from the south to the ascent of Akrabim and continue to Zin, and its termination, or its goings out, that word, that phrase is used throughout the chapter in that way. Its termination shall be to the south of Kadesh Barnea, and it shall reach Hazaradar and continue to Asmon. The border shall turn direction from Asmon to the brook of Egypt, and its termination shall be at the sea. As for the western border, you shall have the great sea, that is its coastline. This shall be your west border. Now the great sea here is referring to the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean is the great sea. Verse 7, and this shall be your north border. You shall draw your borderline from the great sea to Mount Hor. You shall draw a line from Mount Hor to the Lebo Hamath, and the termination of the border shall be at Zedad, and the border shall proceed to Ziphron, and its termination shall be at Hazar Enan. This shall be your north border. All of these locations that are listed here in verses 8 and 9 are uncertain. We really don't know where they are. We can just sort of give a general idea of where they are. Verse 10, for your eastern border you shall also draw a line from Hazar Enan to Shepham, and the border shall go down from Shepham to Riblah on the east side of Ain, and the border shall go down and reach to the slope on the east side, or the shoulder on the east side of the sea of Chinnereth. And the border shall go down to the Jordan, and its termination shall be at the salt sea. This shall be your land according to its borders all around. So Moses commanded the sons of Israel, saying, this is the land that you are to apportion by lot among you as a possession, which the Lord has commanded to give to the 9.5 tribes. For the tribe of the sons of Reuben have received theirs according to their fathers' households, and the tribe of the sons of Gad according to their fathers' households, and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their possession. Remember, we looked at that in the last chapter, what they had requested, what Moses granted. The 2.5 tribes have received their possessions across the Jordan, opposite Jericho, eastward toward the sun rising. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, these are the names of the men who shall apportion the land to you for inheritance. Eleazar the priest, and Joshua the son of Nun. You shall take one leader of every tribe to apportion the land for inheritance. These are the names of the men. Of the tribe of Judah, Caleb the son of Jephunneh. Of the tribe of the sons of Simeon, Samuel the son of Ahamud. Of the tribe of Benjamin, Eladad the son of Chislon. Of the tribe of the sons of Dan, a leader, Buckai the son of Joglai. Of the sons of Joseph, of the tribe of the sons of Manasseh, a leader, Haniel the son of Ephod. Of the tribe of the sons of Ephraim, a leader, Kemuel the son of Shipton. Of the tribe of the sons of Zebulun, a leader, Elizaphan the son of Parnak. Of the tribe of the sons of Issachar, a leader, Paltiel the son of Azan. Of the tribe of the sons of Asher, a leader, Ahud the son of Shalomai. Of the tribe of the sons of Naphtali, a leader, Pedahel the son of Ammihud. These are those whom the Lord commanded to apportion the inheritance to the sons of Israel in the land of Canaan. And that brings us now to chapter 35. A very interesting chapter because it describes the cities of refuge. Cities of refuge is a very interesting concept. And it's a very important concept in the life of Israel, as we're going to see. Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, command the sons of Israel that they give to the Levites from the inheritance of their possession cities to live in. And you shall give to the Levites pasture lands around the cities. The cities shall be theirs to live in, and their pasture land shall be for their cattle, and for their herds, and for all their beasts. So the Levites did not receive land inheritance as such. But the Levites were to be supported by, as we've already seen, tithes or offerings by the Israelites. And the priests received various kinds of sacred revenues. But to provide them greater security and to disperse them and their influence throughout the region, then they were to be given apportioned numerous special cities. And they would be called, of course, cities of refuge, as we're going to see. Verse 4, the pasture lands of the cities which you shall give to the Levites shall extend from the wall of the city outward 1,000 cubits around. You shall also measure outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits, with the city in the center. This shall become theirs as pasture lands for the cities. So that's where the Levites were to be located. Not having their own portion of land, they are to have these cities scattered throughout the land of Israel. The cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be the 6 cities of refuge, which you shall give for the manslayer to flee to. And in addition to them, you shall give 42 cities. Now the manslayer is going to be described shortly. All the cities, which you shall give to the Levites shall be 48 cities, together with their pasture lands. As for the cities which you shall give from the possession of the sons of Israel, you shall take more from the larger, and you shall take less from the smaller. Each shall give some of his cities to the Levites in proportion to his possession, which he inherits. So again, there's an equal distribution here. Not one is being asked to do more than the other. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, again, it's not if, it's when. They're expected to cross. Then you shall select for yourselves cities to be your cities of refuge, that the manslayer who has killed any person unintentionally may flee there. So the manslayer that's under consideration is an individual who takes the life of another person accidentally. We would call it manslaughter. It's something that they did not do with malice aforethought. It wasn't premeditated. But, understandably, the family of the one who is killed would be very upset, and they would want justice. And so the manslayer would then be able to flee to the city of refuge. Notice, the city shall be to you as a refuge from the avenger, so that the manslayer will not die until he stands before the congregation for trial. So notice that he would not be subject to being killed by the avenger. It says the manslayer, the avenger that's used here is the Avenger of Blood, as we're going to see. Avenger is the word that's also translated Redeemer, and it describes one's nearest kinsman, among whose duties in the close-knit clan structure was the avenging of the blood of his slain brother. And there's other duties that's involved with the kinsman redeemer. Kinsman redeemer had marriage duties, as we see from the book of Ruth, purchase of the kin from slavery, as we saw in Leviticus 25, redemption, Leviticus 25:25, protective purchase, Jeremiah 32:7-12, of family property, and collection of debts of the deceased kinsman. There's a lot of responsibility with this avenger, this redeemer. Avenger, redeemer, kinsman is what's being considered here. So, notice, the manslayer will not die till he stands before the congregation for trial. Verse 13. The cities which you are to give shall be your 6 cities of refuge. You shall give 3 cities across the Jordan and 3 cities in the land of Canaan. They are to be cities of refuge. Now later it will be revealed that these cities are in order: Bezer, Ramoth Gilead, and Golan, and then Kedesh, Shechem, and Hebron. That's as he lists them, or as he categorizes them here in verse 14. Verse 15, these 6 cities shall be for refuge for the sons of Israel, and for the alien and for the sojourner among them, that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there. But if he struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. So in other words, you're not talking in this instance about, in this circumstance, about an accidental slaying. This person has an iron object in his hand. And it's obvious that this person intentionally took the life of another. That person is guilty of death. If he struck him down with a stone in the hand, by which he will die, and as a result he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. Or if he struck him with a wooden object in the hand, by which he might die, and as a result he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. The blood avenger himself shall put the murderer to death. He shall put him to death when he meets him. If he pushed him of hatred, or threw something at him, lying in wait, and as a result he died, or if he struck him down with his hand in enmity, and as a result he died, the one who struck him shall surely be put to death. He is a murderer. The blood avenger shall put the murderer to death when he meets him. So, what he's doing here, what Moses is doing through inspiration, is he's making a clear distinction between somebody who accidentally takes the life of a person and the individual who intentionally takes the life of someone. And of course, in our modern system of justice, our modern system of jurisprudence, in theory at least, we have those distinctions made, and the law makes accordance for such. And the law of Moses made accordance for that as well. Verse 22, but if he pushed him suddenly without enmity, or threw something at him without lying in wait, or with any deadly object of stone, and without seeing it dropped on him so that he died, while he was not his enemy nor seeking his injury, then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the blood avenger, according to these ordinances. In other words, something happens. He throws something, he does something, he does not intend to kill anyone, and by chance someone is in the crosshairs of that. Well, then that's an accidental killing. The congregation shall deliver the manslayer from the hand of the blood avenger, and the congregation shall restore him to his city of refuge, to which he fled, and he shall live in it until the death of the high priest, who was anointed with the holy oil. You see what's going on here? The person who is guilty of death, who is not intentionally taking the life of someone, accidentally takes a life, if it's judged that way, that person is to live in that city of refuge until the high priest dies. But, verse 26, if the manslayer at any time goes beyond the border of his city of refuge to which he may flee, and the blood avenger finds him outside the border of his city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the manslayer, he will not be guilty of blood, because he should have remained in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the manslayer shall return to the land of his possession. So, there is that caveat. The person who is taking this life remains in that city until the death of the high priest. If he goes outside the border of that city, then the manslayer can kill him. But when the high priest dies, then the manslayer can go back to his place where his tribe is located. Verse 29. These things shall be for a statutory ordinance to you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. If anyone kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death at the evidence of witnesses. That's a safeguard. But no person shall be put to death on the testimony of one witness. Mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. We think about when Jesus was in his mock trial, his kangaroo court trial before the Pharisees, how that the witnesses could not even agree among themselves. They were false witnesses, and yet the Pharisees condemned him to death because of their laughable testimony. Verse 31, moreover, you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, but he shall surely be put to death. You shall not take ransom for him who has fled to his city of refuge, that he may return to live in the land before the death of the priest. So you shall not pollute the land in which you are, for blood pollutes the land, and no expiation can be made for the land for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell. For I, the Lord, am dwelling in the midst of the sons of Israel. God makes this crystal clear. You are not to pollute the land because I am living with you. And yet what happened? We know what happened. Israel and Judah polluted the land extensively. And as a result, they were carried away into captivity. Chapter 36. And the heads of the fathers' households of the family of the sons of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph came near, and spoke before Moses and before the leaders, the heads of the fathers' households of the sons of Israel. And they said, the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land by lot to the sons of Israel as an inheritance. And my Lord was commanded by the Lord to give the inheritance of Zelophehad, our brother, to his daughters. But if they marry one of the sons of the other tribes of the sons of Israel, their inheritance will be withdrawn from the inheritance of our fathers, and will be added to the inheritance of the tribe to which they belong. Thus it will be withdrawn from our allotted inheritance. When the Jubilee of the sons of Israel comes, then their inheritance will be added to the inheritance of the tribe to which they belong. So their inheritance will be withdrawn from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers. So the sense here is that even the Jubilee institution was protected against the danger of land being sold outside the tribe, offered no protection against it being inherited inside or outside the tribe. Rather, the Jubilee would only have confirmed officially that transfer had taken place. Now, this incident about Zelophehad, we've already seen it mentioned before, and we're going to see the resolution of it here. Verse 5. Then Moses commanded the sons of Israel according to the word of the Lord, saying, the tribe of the sons of Joseph are right in their statements. This is what the Lord has commanded concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, let them marry whom they wish, only they must marry within the family of the tribe of their father. Thus no inheritance of the sons of Israel shall be transferred from tribe to tribe, for the sons of Israel shall each hold to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. Every daughter who comes into possession of an inheritance of any tribe of the sons of Israel shall be wife to one of the family of the tribe of her father, so that the sons of Israel each may possess the inheritance of his fathers. What Moses is doing is he's making this a precedent for the future. Thus, verse 9, no inheritance shall be transferred from one tribe to another tribe, for the tribes of the sons of Israel shall each hold to his own inheritance. Just as the Lord had commanded Moses, so the daughters of Zelophehad did. Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, the daughters of Zelophehad, married their uncle's sons. They married those from the families of the sons of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained with the tribe of the family of their father. Now you think, why is he mentioning that here at the very end of the book of Numbers? Most likely it's because they wanted to, Moses wanted to end this book on a positive note. Numbers, by and large, is not a very encouraging book as far as Israel is concerned about their faithfulness. But here at the very end, they're at the verge of coming into the land of Canaan. It is a positive note indeed. Verse 13, these are the commandments and the ordinances which the Lord commanded to the sons of Israel through Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. So now we have ended the book of Numbers, in the few minutes that we have remaining, about 5 minutes or so, I want to introduce the book of Deuteronomy. We're going to begin the book of Deuteronomy then next week. The book of Deuteronomy itself is, of course, the last one in the Pentateuch. And the name Deuteronomy is somewhat misleading. The name itself, Deuteronomy, is from the Greek Septuagint translation, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. The word Deuteronomion, or second law, was inaccurately put in to render that Hebrew term copy of the law. Mishnah Torah is the Hebrew term. And so the Greek term was utilized then to name the book by most people, Deuteronomy. But the Jews named the book from its opening words. Debarim, words. These are the words, or simply words. So that's what the Jews know this book as. Not Deuteronomy, but words. That's a very interesting thing. This is a magnificent book, Deuteronomy. It climaxes appropriately the inspired law of Moses. And the purpose of the book is stated in verse 5, to record Moses' exposition of the law in the plains of Moab. So the book is a series of sermons by Moses. Moses was a preacher, after all, as well as a prophet, and as well as the great lawgiver and the great redeemer of Israel, and the mediator for Israel. But he's also a preacher. So this was his sermonic exposition of the law, and is marked throughout by a dominant motivational emphasis. It reads like a sermon. You can preach it. You can easily preach it. The continuity of Moses' inspired proclamation is reflected in a relative lack of title sentences and headings in the book. It is evident, increasingly by the way, that for this proclamation, Moses utilized the form and the structure of Near Eastern suzerainty treaties. That's a very interesting connection. Deuteronomy depicts a solemn and formal renewal of the Sinai covenant with the new generation of Israelites that were preparing to enter Canaan. The ancient suzerainty treaties of the ancient Near East contained several constituent elements. Number one, a preamble identifying the suzerain. Two, a historical prologue describing his benevolence to the vassal people. Three, covenant stipulations both in general and in detail. Four, recognition of divine witnesses to the covenant. And five, statement of blessings and curses. And that's exactly how Deuteronomy unfolds. It has this complete structure, this suzerainty treaty structure. Further, such treaties often contained a provision for public recitation of the covenant. And it's very interesting to look at this because suzerainty treaties are known from the 3rd millennium to the 1st millennium BC. The latest examples that we know of have a lack of certain particulars. But the presence of such in Deuteronomy confirms its 2nd millennium origin in full harmony with belief in Mosaic authorship. And it does not really go along with the later dating by those who deny Moses' authorship of the Pentateuch. It fits perfectly if Moses did author it. So, this book, as we enter into it next week, is going to be a grand exposition of Moses, the lawgiver, to the people of Israel as to where they've been, where they are, and where they're going to go. And this is going to be a fitting climax to Moses' career. And we're going to see at the end of the book how that Moses himself describes, I believe he describes his own death. And some people would say that's a little bit morbid, but I do believe he was inspired to write it. If he didn't write it, Joshua wrote it. Should not be any problem with that at all. The liberals try to use that as a hammer to hammer over us that Moses could not have authored this. Well, the fact is, Moses authored it, and Moses preached this, and it's a fitting climax to what we have studied all together. So we'll begin Deuteronomy next week. Remember, Wednesday night is the Bible study at 6:30. Also, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. worship, and then again our study together at 5 o'clock. Until next time, may God richly bless you.